Well damn guys, this has been one weird year for video games. The highs have been pretty damn high, but conversely the lows have been similarly epic. I don't want to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes bemoaning the hell out of the past year, but did you guys realise that Skyrim got re-released 3 times this year? Anyway, as promised, here's a nice neatly packaged list of my 5 favourite games of the year. I have to be honest, this list was a bit of a struggle. I had a really tough time finding 5 games that I thought were great enough to be in my top 5, and although I've played quite a few games this year, a lot of them weren't actually released in 2017, were shockingly awful, or were a bit disappointing. Life is Strange Before the Storm, for example, was good to a point, but it lacked the emotional characterisation that I identified with in the original game, whereas my suspension of disbelief was pushed to the breaking point in the new Colossus, and I found it a bit too repetitive to top some of the other games on my list. If you've watched any of my previous videos, it's probably going to be reasonably obvious what games will make it onto my list, but since everyone and their grandmother likes to make list videos these days, and I fancied trying my hand at a nice normal compilation video to round out the year, I figured why the hell not? Just to preface the following lists, this is all just my opinion, of course. If your favourite game of the year isn't on my list, let me know in the comments below, and if I haven't played it, I will give it a whirl. Also, just throwing this out there was a part of me that really wanted to put Bayonetta on this list, because despite the game being like 7 years old at this point, it was only released on PC this year, which technically makes it a 2017 release. Yeah, I'm not fooling anyone, am I? So without further ado, let me give you a rundown of 5 bloody awesome games of this year. I have to be completely honest. I bought this the day it came out, but only finished it for the first time about 2 weeks ago. When it was first released, I started playing it, managed about an hour, and turned it off for the next 4 months. At the time, I was in the middle of trying to catch up on other games and didn't really have the motivation to play a semi-open world Uncharted game, put off by the lack of wisecracking Nathan Drake and Laura Bailey's interesting accent. But then I gave the game another chance and enjoyed the hell out of it. Taking a break from these kinds of games actually helped way more than I thought it would, and when I eventually returned to Lost Legacy, I found it a hugely fun romp that was the perfect length, with returning character Chloe Fraser proving to be smart, witty, and serious enough to bear the weight of an entire game on her shoulders. Of all the characters who I thought could pull off an Uncharted game, Chloe was the last one I expected to manage it. But once again, Naughty Dog have proved reliable in their ability to create engaging, interesting characters and vast, beautiful worlds. Sure, the game is less punchy than its predecessors, and like all 3 of the PS3 games, its main villain isn't particularly interesting, but the game is a fantastic character study with tight mechanics refined over the 4 previous entries, and an enjoyable dynamic between its protagonists. If you're on the fence about this one, with it not featuring cuddly mass murderer Nathan Drake, rest assured it is a pretty damn good romp in its own right. I mentioned in my review for the original Evil Within game that it was a flawed but ultimately enjoyable survival horror escapade that wasn't always sure what it was trying to be. The sequel kinda sprang out of nowhere back in October and genuinely surprised me with how enjoyable it was. I had an absolute blast with Evil Within 2, with its intriguing villains, for the most part, well-paced and emotional narrative and broad styles of play. The game has a great aesthetic, and especially towards the last third of the game, the frantic pace and scrambling nightmarish landscapes tearing themselves apart in an effort to kill you are fantastic. The music too is a standout aspect for me, and I went out and grabbed the soundtrack almost immediately after completing the game. More than anything though, the biggest reason why this stuck out to me as one of the best releases this year is just down to the fact that it was ever greenlit at all. This is a series that just did not scream franchise, and it certainly didn't seem to warrant the attention it's gotten to begin with. It didn't sell brilliantly, and it had so many problems when it was first released, but someone somewhere believed in the project enough to give it another chance, and thank God they did. The Evil Within 2 is everything a sequel should be and more. It isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a great rampage in a genre that's been inundated with walking simulators and jump scare fests as of late. Right, now seriously guys, who the hell would have thought that the company responsible for the admittedly reasonable Killzone series were capable of creating a thought-provoking, philosophical open-world adventure game with a believably realistic main character? Horizon was first announced back in 2015, I believe, alongside Shenmue 3 and Final Fantasy Remake, you know, that remake that may or may not get released in this millennium. And that first trailer grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and refused to let go. Thank Christ it was as awesome as its initial reveal promised. Horizon is the most complete, fully realised gaming world I've experienced this year, Western at least, with a beautiful art direction, superb character writing, and a story that blends post-apocalyptic, science fiction, and the nature of humanity in a theatrical, grandiose but ultimately superb manner. More than anything, more than its enormous world brimming with things to do and secrets to find, more than its superb world building and its empathetic, wonderfully human main character, Horizon is a strong indication that with enough care and devotion and with just the right amount of trust and funding behind it, a small studio can make a huge impact. I honestly, seriously struggled with this one. There was a huge part of me that really wanted to put this game at the number 1 spot. But unfortunately, my heart is invested a little too much in a different series and a different genre, and that unruly adoration meant that the number 2 spot for this year goes to the extraordinary Darkwood. What can I say about this game that I haven't already said? It's cool, it's slick, it's one of the few games I've been following on Steam Greenlight that's actually a fully fledged release now. It's an impressive blend of simple mechanics and magnificent world building, with one of the most engaging environments I've ever had the pleasure of leaping into. And it is the first horror game in 2 years to truly unsettle me. I don't want to harp on too much about how much I adore Darkwood, because I already have for 2 whole videos, but I have to repeat myself at least once more. If you can handle the top-down camera and you like horror games, please support the developers, Acid Wizard Studios. Darkwood is a phenomenal example of what time, patience, and fan belief can do for a small indie studio. It's new, refreshing, and most importantly, it's bloody good. So, you might be wondering at this point, what on earth is your favourite game of the year? I mean, it's something I'm pretty sure I've never actually mentioned in any of my videos. I've definitely never reviewed it, mostly because I didn't really know where to start explaining why I adore this game so much. It would have been the longest video in the world, and there are plenty of others who've explained in detail why the game is so damn good. Alright, so let's wrap this up. If there is one thing I can say about the number 1 spot,
you never see it coming.
here's something I don't think I've ever talked about. I am a huge fan of JRPGs, but I would never ever pretend to be particularly good at them. Especially, Persona 3 is one of my all-time favourite games. Now, before I incur the wrath of any fanbases, I know the games are an offshoot of the Shin Megami Tensei series. I have played and completed all of the Persona games, but I find it difficult to get invested in the mainline SMT games, although I do own Nocturne and both Digital Devil Saga games. Yes, I am one of those gamers. In my defence, getting hold of SMT games in the UK is obnoxiously difficult, and they tend to be expensive. Like, really expensive. Copies of Persona 3 retail at £60 to £70, which is like $80 to $90, whereas my physical copy of Persona 3 was purchased from Amazon US for $14, plus $4 shipping. Getting back to the points, I lauded Horizon as being the most fully realised world in this year's long list of video game releases, and that's still true a few minutes later. Persona 5, however, is the most fully realised game of the year. This is a game that you can easily pour 100 hours in and still not see everything. The fact that it took so long for P5 to release is either a testament to the company's ineptitude or to the love, care and attention that went into creating the most perfect sequel yet. And thankfully, it's the latter. From the easy to exploit but still rewarding combat that encourages the player to create their own internal bestiary for weaknesses and resistances, to the enormous variety of colourful characters, the subtle and slightly not so subtle story beats, the utterly spectacular music, as always, and the brilliantly imagined, fully realised world of the metaverse with the usual Greek, Roman and Norse mythological influences, as well as the modern day twists and turns of a group of students navigating life and coming of age, while simultaneously beating the shit out of a variety of interesting looking monsters. Persona 5 is absolutely brilliant. Persona 5 sucked me in and refused to let go. It compounded the love I already had for P3 and 4, taking the best elements of both games and adding a whole host of brand new features that, rather than muddying the already complicated waters, massively informed the gameplay and made the JRPG puzzle fall neatly, beautifully into place. If you're looking for a huge and bold adventure to sink your teeth into and don't mind stories about crazy Japanese schoolchildren with monsters that look like bellends, give this a shot. It is a damn good thrill ride, and it is my favourite game of the year. So, just to round everything off, I'm really looking forward to 2018. I'm looking forward to creating a lot of videos that I've kind of had on a back burner for a while. I've been playing a lot of classic games recently to get playthroughs recorded. Uncovered all my old notes that are, some of them are a couple of years old. I even found a really, really old audio recording for The Last of Us that I did, which I'd actually like to redo. So look out for that one in the future. I have still got my massive project on the horizon that I'm kind of hoping to have out by the end of January. I've actually been off work this last week, so I've been able to get a little bit more done in that regard, but I'm back at work on Tuesday, so uploads are going to be a little bit more sporadic, but you guys have been awesome. I've really, really enjoyed having little discussions, chatting about, new games, getting some ideas for what to play. So if you guys have got any games that you think I might enjoy, let me know in the comments. Mainly though, guys, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for the support, it means a lot to me. And thank you very much for listening to me ramble.